In today's video, we're looking at something truly special. Indiafox Teco have finally released their F35 after a few delays, but my goodness, was the wait worth it. This has shot up to one of my favourite aircraft for Microsoft Flight Sim, if not my favourite aircraft in the simulator. There's a lot to talk about. It is really awesome, so let's get right into it. But before we do, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. It really does help me out, keeps me going along with these videos. Of course, buying add-ons doesn't come cheaply nowadays, so your support really does help out. But without further delay, let's get right into it. So hello guys, here we are with the jet right in front of us. This, if you couldn't guess, is the F35. Now this package was released on Sim Markets just a few hours ago, so this review really is hot off the press. But it's Christmas break for me at the moment, so I've had plenty of time, a few hours, to have a good look at it. I've taken a look at two of the variants already, but I think it shows me enough about them, and of course we'll take a look at the variant I haven't looked at in this video today. I've taken a look at the B variant, which is short takeoff and vertical landing, and the C variant, which is catabar, and it's the one in question right now. If you don't know what that is, it basically means this plane can take off from an aircraft carrier with the catapult. Now before we hop into the cockpit and start flying around with this bad boy, what exactly is it? Well, this is the Lockheed Martin F35 Lightning II. It was known through most of its development stage as the Joint Strike Fighter, made mostly by the USA, but also quite a bit by the USA's allies, most notably those in NATO such as the United Kingdom, but also a few other close allies. It's therefore been operated by most, if not all, of the countries that chipped into the project, and if they're not being operated there yet, then they've got orders for the aircraft. Due to the three different variants that suit the different needs of the air forces from the countries that were involved in the project. For example, the B variant was designed with the United Kingdom's future aircraft carriers, or current aircraft carriers now, in mind, and the A variant was designed for the likes of the US Air Force, which is why it can carry so many bombs. They plan on operating this aircraft until 2070, which is quite some time. And of course, it's replaced the likes of the Harrier in the UK, and the likes of the F-15 and F-18s in other nations. It is an incredibly capable aircraft, and I think the version of this made on Microsoft Flight Sim does an incredible job, but it's not perfect. So today, I'll be rolling through whether or not you should buy this €30 aircraft, the pros and cons of it, and have Indiafox Teco made the best aircraft for Microsoft Flight Sim. Stay tuned to find out. So welcome to the cockpit of the F35C. I've already stated what makes it the C variant, but basically it's got a button down here that says hook, and that extends out the hook. Now the cockpit, I think, well, they've done a really good job at it. And the thing about the F35 is the fact that it's serving, and it's a recently quite top secret aircraft, so a lot of the files out there aren't in the public domain, so this is not going to be study level, but one thing I would say is that it's going to be high fidelity, i.e. the details that are there have been produced to an outstanding level, but they're not going to get everything spot on, quite simply because they can't. Now right now we're on autopilot, which you can see on the panoramic display. You click up here. Now you should be able to see my mouse, so this is the autopilot selector menu here. There is a variety of menus well hidden, and I'll kind of be showing you how to use this aircraft as we go along, but of course there'll probably be some tutorials in the not so distant future, i.e. over the next few days. So basically all it is a massive touch screen. As you can see, there are very few buttons in this cockpit, resulting in what I think is a weirdly clean experience, especially if you're used to the likes of the F-15 and F-18. Now it's simple to change your menus. All you need to do is click on the name and you can see we get a selection. We've got stuff like the checklist here, the flight instruments, engine, information, which we've got here anyway, fuel, heads-up display, and then stuff that is pretty specific to the F35, such as the tactical simulation display or something like that. It does say on the 50-page manual, but it's probably gone out of my head, so I've probably got that wrong. But as you can see, it is very easy to swap around with the menus. We're now going to turn autopilot off so you can take a look at the F35C's flight model. There we go, we don't get any noise, but I think if you disable it manually, I think you do get some sort of klaxon. But there you go, you can see we've got complete control of the aircraft now, including the throttle. And just look at it, it's absolutely stunning, really beautiful. Now we're here off the west coast of the United Kingdom, kind of in between Wales and Ireland basically at the moment. In fact, you can just see Ireland over there, so quite fitting that we're heading towards the USA. And we will take a look at the other variants later, but right now let's just focus on this plane. So I've already talked about modelling in the cockpit, it is done very well. There is dynamic sounds as well, but we'll talk about sounds in a minute. Let's take a look at the modelling outside. So I've got to be honest, the modelling outside externally has got to be my least favourite part of this aircraft. That's not to say it's bad, I just don't think it's as good as it could be. For example, if you look right at the nose of the aircraft, I think it does look a bit funny in places, however that could just be light. But animations are exceptional. Look at the if you look right at the front there, just under the nose, and notice that weird moving little thing there, that's called an electro-optical targeting system. That basically enhances the F-35's stealth capabilities, allowing it to target other aircraft, whether they be air-to-air or air-to-surface. Now looking from the top of the aircraft, you can see, as I was saying, texturing and modelling externally isn't as good as it frankly could be, but it still is early days. Notice the bit of pixelation we get there. However, the engine does look pretty good, and of course we've got the heat haze right at the back there, and afterburners. There we go, just look at them, they look even better at night. Let's do a bit of a cheeky peek and take a look at how that looks at night time. Oh yeah boy, that's what I'm talking about. Look at that, that is absolutely stunning, so well done. Now while we're outside, we might as well take a look at lighting. That is perfectly acceptable, nothing extraordinary in terms of it being horrific or terrible. Lighting is just good, but of course, this being a stealth aircraft, lighting is always going to be limited. Heading back into the cockpit, seeing as we're at night time, we might as well come here anyway. Let's disable autopilot and also throttle. Just look at the reflections. So well done. You'll notice when I change it on the glass, it changes up here as you'd come to expect. And the heads-up display does look very good. I imagine this aircraft is a right blast in VR. So you're probably getting a good feel for the aircraft already. It is simply incredible. But the best is yet to come. I don't want to keep this video dragging on for too long, because of course we've got other things to look out in future videos. Let me find the right display there. And there will be tutorials and more in-depth videos of the individual variants as we come along. So I'm just trying to make a nice bit of wrap up, really, giving you guys a good initial impression. Coming back today, let's wrap up what we've talked about already. So externally it's decent, but this aircraft really shines internally. Not everything works for obvious reasons, and weapons don't work sadly, they're only a cosmetic feature that you can add on to the sim market and online store variant, but what does work works really well, in my opinion anyway. Of course leave your thoughts down below, but we're now going to move on to our next variant. So while we're in the menu, let's take a look at the aircraft we do get. We get the A variant, which is conventional, i.e. using a runway takeoff and landing. We get the B variant, which is kind of best of both worlds. But because it can take off and land vertically on an aircraft carrier, some speed and fuel capacity as well as missiles it can carry is limited. And then the C variant, which is the one we were just taking a look at, which is Catabar. We're now done with the C variant, we'll take a look at the B variant and then the A variant to wrap up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is come towards this aircraft carrier. We're going to set it as our arrival. So we're going to fly in, hopefully quite close to the carrier, enable hover mode, which I'll show you how to do, and then slowly place ourselves down on the carrier. I've had one shot already, so let's load in. I've tried it once and it went well, and actually is the video at the start of this video, but I felt at that time my gears, I was relying on the back two first, and you kind of have to go against your instincts and basically not flare and land it basically more like a helicopter, which I think is weird, but nonetheless that's how you kind of meant to do it. But the aircraft does control itself for the most part. At that point you're just relying on throttle, everything else is kind of self-stabilised. So here we are, we're loaded in now. Welcome to the B variant. You'll notice there's not too much different around it. It's really the same old aircraft. Now while we're coming along, what we're going to do is dump fuel. I know it's not optimal, actually it kind of is, we're over an ocean, so you know, sadly the fishies might not have a good day. But there we go, we're dumping fuel now just to make us less heavy, and our gear is down purely because we loaded in. There you go, you can see we've got some sort of effects. I don't really like them, I've got to be honest. I understand they do exist in real life, but I think they're poorly done. But I think that's more of a Microsoft Flight Simulator limitation. So how I see myself going at the moment, we're going to twist around here and then curve around, following this land to come up next to the aircraft carrier. I'm getting a nice visual image into my mind. It just helps you plan it out, take everything a bit slower and get down nicer. Okay, there we go, we've dumped enough fuel now. Goodness knows why those clouds have just done that. I guess it's the, there we go, get rid of that. I guess it's just live weather popping up again. Hey! Yes, I know. I can't see a thing. Live weather has ruined that, so let me just be a bit of a cheater. Turn that off for now. But there we go, we're actually pretty decent lined up with the aircraft carrier, just way too quick. They look good. So as a result of live weather messing us up though, we're just going to do a few basic circuits around the aircraft carrier. I'm not too sure what you call them. I'm sure there's some sort of Navy term for it. There it is, flying over. Basically need to get down to 250 knots before we can go into hover mode. And then of course we'll wrap up by taking a look at the A variant. Right, hopefully we're getting down 300, and yeah, okay, we're cool. Bit of lag there, but performance-wise, it's very good for a fighter jet. You can always expect them to be on the slightly more aggressive side in terms of FPS because you're moving so quick. But frankly, you know, this is perfectly acceptable. Right, we've now reached 250 knots. We're now going to prepare ourselves to enter hover mode. It is a lot of fun. It is oh so satisfying. Okay, we're picking up a bit of speed there just because we were descending down a bit. So let's lose that a tad. And there we go. Right, okay. Let's get our gear down. Our flaps down. And what we're going to do is draw a bit closer to the aircraft carrier. To be fair, it's a long way down, but we can probably do it about here. Oops, Daisy, there we go, come on. Because we're going at quite some speed, you'll notice it did fly us up there, but there we go. We're now in hover mode. We've got a bit of a trek back to the aircraft carrier. So basically, to change your heading, what you're going to want to do is use your rudder pedals. And you do get some sort of force remaining over kind of speed, but not much. Most of the throttle is handled by the computer now. Just look at that. Now you notice I'm not actually controlling much here. It's a relatively relaxing way to fly. And that is purely because the computer handles it all. As we descend down, I'm just kind of twisting over the carrier. I know this isn't recommended, but hey, it's only Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm sure many people in the comments will be able to do a much better job than I am, but keep in mind, I'm not taking this fully realistically today, purely because it's a review and that would take way too long. I'd get way too frustrated. And by the time I perfect it, it would probably be 3 weeks down the line. If that. Right, we're basically coming along the aircraft carrier now quite nicely. Put a bit more power in just to get us over there quicker. And then once we're over the carrier at a good speed, all we basically need to do is let go of the yoke or stick or whatever you use to control it, and just control your throttle. Now the computer does manage it pretty nicely, to be fair.
Bingo.
There we go, bingo fuel now. Told you, we didn't have much time. Okay, this is looking somewhat good. I'm sure any Navy pilots in the comments will be having a heart attack right now, but you know, it is what it is. You know, it takes a while, it's a process. If you pulled up right next to it at 250 knots, enabled hover, you'd have a much better day than I am at the moment. But it's all about throttle management at this point. Very little input required with any of your yokes. All I'm doing is using a bit of rudder to twist me round. And welcome to the aircraft carrier. I think we're a bit quick there, but nonetheless, that probably looks very cool in replay mode. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so we're just taking a look at the aircraft in replay mode right now, and just look at it. This is us overflying the aircraft carrier. Now, it does work on multiplayer and as an AI aircraft pretty well from things I've heard and seen, although I haven't had the chance to test it out just yet. Do notice I've left it, because I'm on replay mode, in the kind of vertical takeoff and landing mode. That's not accurate, of course, it's just how replay mode works. If we come along and skip it to where we should be, so here it slowly comes. You can see we are going very, very slowly at this point. You can barely hear it, but that is because we are admittedly in front of it. Kind of hear it now. Or just tilt in. That is mighty impressive. And for my second landing on an aircraft carrier, I'm pretty impressed with it. Ooh, they do land hard, these things though, so bear that in mind, but it probably was too hard. Nonetheless, let's look at it. Absolutely incredible. So it does really get better and better, but there's one more thing to show you in this variant of the aircraft. I said I wasn't going to take off earlier. I had to change the plan. I thought I would, just to show you guys. We're going to be doing something here called an auto takeoff. It works exceptionally well. It is really weird just to sit in the aircraft and it to take off for you. Honestly futuristic. Anyway, to do it, all you're going to want to do is engage STOVL mode, short takeoff, vertical landing. So I'm going to do that by pressing my wing lights. There we go. And you can see you get everything up like we did earlier. Now you'll notice we've got here auto takeoff. It's basically kind of a combination of vertical takeoff and conventional. Kind of pushes you forward a bit and then brings you up. The aim to bring you up in the air in the shortest amount of time and indeed distance possible. Now what we're going to do is engage our wheel brakes, so feet down on the pedals. Then you're going to want to select auto takeoff, so just click it like that, and then easily enough release the brakes. Bang! I'm not touching anything, just watch this. We are up in the air. Then we're going to retract our landing gear and come over to conventional mode once we've got the speed, which is about now. Full power, just look at that. Incredible. What we're now going to do, I think I've shown you enough, quite frankly. I can end the video here and tell you how amazing this plane is, but we're going to take a look at the final variant, the A variant. Okay, so we're now loading into Miramar, of course the home of Top Gun. While it is a Navy air station, we're actually using a USAF aircraft today. The A variant, as I said earlier, is conventional, which means it can only take off on runways like this, and it doesn't need that much runway, but it still needs a runway a bit longer than an aircraft carrier. The benefits of that basically include it being able to carry more fuel, more weapons, which in turn means it's more likely to be used in wars such as in the Middle East, which we've seen already. Just look at this all loading up. It feels what I'd imagine the F35 feels like, although we'll never really know until 2070, I believe, when they finally decide to retire this aircraft. Now we've got everything started up. I believe that's on because my battery switches are on. Yes, it is. There we go. We can get everything started up. So what I'm going to do is do this again because I'm awkward, and just listen to the sounds. Really good. Also, there is dynamic sound, as we've already kind of looked at, i.e. when you close the canopy, you know, it gets quieter. When you move your head around, depending on what ear your headphones on, it will kind of react what it's like in the sim. We're going to come into our checklist and engine start. So parking brake switch is set on, safety pins removed. So let's get rid of this safety pin, this safety pin. And frankly, I can't see any other safety pins. One thing I did like as well is that the little ladder comes out to help the crew member get up. That's quite a precarious little ladder. I've been on one like that going up into an F-15, but I don't think it was anything like that where you just had one stud on one side. Okay, so we're now taxiing. Start up relatively easy. Just follow each of the checklists. I could show it. I'll probably do a tutorial on it in the future, but frankly, it doesn't take too long, so it'll probably be a 2-minute video maybe at that. There we go, coming onto the runway now. Let's slow it down. We don't really need flaps for this sort of runway, so we're perfectly fine. But with good weight, much more heavier than we could be on an aircraft carrier. Let's take off and talk about what I do and do not like about this aircraft, and its other variants, and whether or not it's worth it. Bearing in mind, I did pay €30 for it. Simply put, yes, it is 100% worth it. It offers a flying experience like no other. I am genuinely awestruck. It is so fun, and there's so many things I haven't shown you. We haven't even looked at this part of the menu, and albeit a lot of this stuff is inoperative, but you've got light control there as well, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it is absolutely incredible. What Dino and his team have done is create a whole new type of aircraft. We've seen nothing like it before. Bunch of new systems, but let's take off now before I talk about the rest of it. Don't know what that says. Seat not armed, or I don't think that's an issue. Okay, full power. There we go, 150, pull up. Beautiful. First time flying this variant, because let's be honest, it's the most boring one out of them all. Just look at that, absolutely incredible. My friends, for €30, I honestly think this is probably the funnest aircraft you could get out there. With 3 variants, a whole collection of liveries, a beautiful flight model, a completely new type of system to learn, and indeed, completely new type of flying to learn. I cannot think of a genuine reason why this would not be worth it. Sure, it's not perfect, there's a few issues with the modelling, and indeed, some low poly textures, but you know, for €30, you're not paying the likes of £100 to get 100% study level aircraft, you're paying a fraction of that to get a, let's say, high fidelity, but inaccurate, because we've got to be honest here, it's not going to be bang on to the F35, that would be impossible, but nonetheless it is barrels of fun and I highly recommend it. I hope you've enjoyed this video today. Thank you so much to my first class members, they get a shout out on the screen now. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe if you have enjoyed, but from me today that is all. I'll see you around, bye bye.